Hello, and welcome to a guide for the Tatar 25+2 4 TC boom. This involves instantly dropping 3 extra TCs as soon as you hit the castle age, and building them with 3 villagers each. This was made possible in the November 2020 anniversary patch, which added the bonus that 2 sheep will spawn at your main TC when you hit feudal age, and every TC built after will have 2 sheep spawn upon construction. On top of this, tower sheep lasts 50% longer, so 2 sheep becomes 300 food. This eliminates a huge cost of adding TCs, which is being able to have the food to run them without idling them, giving Tatars one of the best booms in the game. Before we get into the build, I'd like to just give you a quick advert for the AoE2 Arena Discord. If you like to play arena team games, want to discuss build orders and learn, or even just want to have a chat, you're very welcome to join. So this build starts perfectly as usual. 2 of your villagers will build a house, the other villager will build a house, and you queue up 4 villagers. Obviously you want to get your first 4 sheep and get one of them under a TC. You can sheep scout with your other sheep. And shift queuing your villagers and setting your TC rally point onto your sheep will save you as much idle time as possible. We want to do our usual 6 on sheep start. As always with arena, go outside first thing you do. Sheep can always spawn outside on arena. And if you scout around your base for your sheep first after you get your first 4, then the chances you're letting your opponent take your sheep from you. So always go outside and scout after you get your first sheep. If they're inside, they're not going to be stolen, because they can't get inside your walls. So 6 sheep and then it's 4 to wood. You can push deer whenever you can. I'm not so sure we can push one now, I don't think it's great timing. So we're going to hold off before we push deer. Let's assume we're still scouting, because we found our sheep very quickly. This is a build order version of a map that's pretty standard, barebone, minimum resources, 8 sheep and 3 deer. And that's the minimum you will spawn with. This does require pushing deer. So if you don't push deer, don't worry about it too much, just go up a couple pop later. Still eat your back walls. Again, nothing unusual here, 6 sheep 4 wood. If you can cut diagonally through the tree like that, then it's always a good idea too. I use Legacy Shift Queue, which operates a little bit differently, but what you use depends on what you enjoy using. So 6 sheep 4 on wood, and then it's 1 to the boar. But as you can see, we have deer under our TC. And it's generally not a good idea to go take a boar when you have a lot of dead animals, so let's just push our deer. So this one that's supposed to go get the boar, we'll go get him later. She'll just go to the deer for now. 6 sheep 4 deer. After that you need to go build a house with the next villager, and they'll then go to berries. The next villager will go to the mill. I like to have 8 on a boar, so we could even put them here if we wanted to. This whole Dark Age is a little bit of a mess because you ideally just want to have 4 villagers on berries. By the time you get to 19 population, ideally your second boar will be in. You'll have 4 on wood, you'll have 4 on berries, and then the rest will be on TC food. But the order you do it is very dependent on if you push deer, when you push deer, various things like that. So let's go and get the boar now. Again, we could use a villager for that, a new one. Ideally, 9 villagers on a boar is generally a very good idea if you don't want to have much rot. So let's just kill the boar here and make sure we end up with our 4 on berries. Around 17-18 pop, that's when I like to send a villager to go build the next houses. A small tip, you need to build 2 houses by the way. A small tip is that if you want to take your boar, then go and take it right when you just kill an animal. For example, you have 6 villagers on sheep, and you just kill a sheep. Then go and get the boar, and it will arrive back at your TC, usually in time for that sheep to expire, or deer. so you don't have an animal sitting there rotting. It just runs out right as you bring the boar in. So as soon as you kill that last animal you're going to kill before getting the boar, that's when you send a villager. We're at 19 pop now. It's time for a second lumber camp. I brought this in a little bit early, but it's not the end of the world. 19 population is usually always a good mark to go and set up a second lumber camp. Okay. Okay. Oh well, that just happens, just to eat things. Shift Q your villagers on berries to take them from left to right and right to left, so you've got 2 on each side permanently. And what I like to do is I like to grab all villagers who are currently on the board, which is going to be 10 at this point. Assign 5 to one control group, 5 to the other. Have 5 go to one sheep, have 5 go to the other, because 10 is not going to fit around 1. Let's just make sure these guys are working efficiently, they're all on different trees. Make sure that doesn't get clumped up and a villager gets stuck. And then after that, we need to send 2 to stone. And then click up to feudal age. What's also a good idea is right now, we need to go and straggle 10 gold. What we're going to be doing is not collecting stone, but rather, not collecting gold, but rather collecting stone. And we're going to sell some stone in order to up. So, with 25 plus 2, you're going to be much faster than any other sifting of 4 TC, so you're more likely to be the one to sell stone. Which you only need to collect 10 gold to sell the stone if you're first. If you're second, stone will only sell to for 89, so you need to collect a little bit more, so it's usually a good idea. Here I'm going to collect a bit extra, just because there's always that off chance in the game. There is a sheep hidden somewhere. Where is it? Oh no, it's this one. So when we hit feudal age, 2 sheep will spawn. And effectively what we want to have happen is... Why are they so behind? I'm confused. Ideally what we want to have happen is to send 2 villagers to wood, and then we'll still have 8 on sheep. The 2 villagers in feudal age, those are about to go to wood. We need to prepare our villagers to build a blacksmith and a market. So we're going to build our market, let's say here, and a blacksmith here. These are not great places. A blacksmith here would have made a lot more sense. I'm not sure why I just didn't do that. But we need to move these sheep out of the way. One slight problem is that these sheep spawning under your TC can get in the way. So we're going to move, while we're in feudal age, 2 villagers from sheep to wood. Make sure we shift key these guys so they go back to the wood when they're done. Sell 100 stone. We might need to drop off those villagers. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It's a very small timing issue. And then we're heading up to an age. So, first thing we get when we can afford it is going to be double bid axe. Then we're going to get horse collar. And then we're going to build 2 farms. We also need to remember to build a house. This is something I often forget in Castle Age with this civ. So, it's nice to just build it now, I feel. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize we had the resources to get those upgrades now. Build those farms, and then task them to take the remaining sheep. So a very slight issue with this build is just simply not having a lot of villagers to build the TCs. Like, you have a 26 villager economy at home, and taking away 9 villagers to build TCs is quite difficult to find villagers to do that with. So we're going to queue up some villagers for when we hit Castle Age. We're not going to start with wheelbarrow because we're not going to be explosive with the farms we add, because the villagers we're going to create at the start are going to go straight to the sheep that spawn. As I said, that's an extremely powerful bonus. Building 2 farms slightly delays our bow saw. And that's just because it's a very slight wood cost, but you have like 4860 wood in the bank after building your TCs. It's not the end of the world. So I'm going to grab a villager from berries. I'm going to grab 3 villagers from here to build another TC over here. So 1 on stone, 1 on the gold, and I'm going to build 1 on the wood with villagers from the wood here. and do that. And as I said, we have 40 wood in the bank, 2040, but we have 9 villagers on wood. We're going to get the amount we need to buy bow saw real quick. And there we go. So when these villagers are done here, we send them straight to wood. I prefer to send them to a straggler because you're going to be making farms very, very quickly with this build as well. We're not going to get heavy plow, and the reason for this is because Tatar's, it's a tighter build if you do, and it's not really affordable without idling. But the reason I just prefer not to get it with Tatars is you go cavalry archers, and you don't need that many farms if you're going cavalry archers. So when they start to expire, rather than reseeding them, you're going to be transitioning your villagers off from farmers to wood at that point anyway. But as we can, we're going to be adding farms as fast as possible. When TCs are up, you need to grab the 3 villagers that built them and send them to the sheep. This can be a little bit crowdy, it's just the way that the sheep spawn, but if you're quick, it's not a problem. Send those 3 to sheep, make the TC go to sheep. Oops. I queued up too many villagers in one TC. And that's effectively it. Just make sure all the villagers, as they're being created, are going to the sheep until we have 5 or 6 on each. And when we can afford to make farms, we're going to be making farms, especially with these villagers coming off of the berries. I've done some experimenting, and whether you do 5 or 6 villagers on the sheep is a little bit hit and miss. It doesn't make a big difference. 5 I think is okay, but 6 could be nice. 6 doesn't seem to be a big problem. I think it's not precise enough for that to be a problem. We now have a lot of villagers on food. We also need to make sure we add a house, because we're going to get housed really quickly if we don't. And it seems like we have 6 on each sheep. So now all our new villagers are going to be going to their respective resources. And as soon as possible, we're going to be peeling villagers off from the sheep. There's going to be shift queuing these so they go to their respective resources. Our 29 on food is going to drop very, very quickly as soon as these sheep start expiring, so just keep your TCs running. I must admit, this has not been a perfect build so far, but that's not what we're here for. Or is it? And there we go. One of the first groups of 2 sheep under our TC is gone. But we have a lot of farms already. And as you can see, we're running our TCs without any problems. It's minute 19, 20, and we have 59 villagers. This is honestly quite close comparable to a very fast 3TC. And you're already going to start taking them over at this point. So as I said, just keep adding farmers like crazy. We've dropped down to 26 on food, as opposed to the 29 we had much earlier. But these are all farmers and they're freshly built farms. As with every 4TC, what I like to do is just set myself a goal for the farms I'm going to hit. And generally, 40 is okay. We also want to make sure that since we start being able to queue up 2+ villagers in every TC, we start saving towards wheelbarrow. I found it's even practical if you have enough gold from just being on gold to buy the food in order to get wheelbarrow a little bit earlier. It costs you a little bit of inefficiency, you know, you're spending 34 more gold than you are food, getting food. But obviously getting wheelbarrow a lot earlier when you have a lot of farmers is always a good thing. So we're going to keep our wood lines as separated as possible now. We have a lot of villagers in this one, we've got to rebuild the lumber camp. We could even get heavy plow now if we wanted to. Just a couple more farmers. Let's do 41. And then we already have enough farmers to run our economy for basically the rest of the game if we're just going cav arch. Very, very useful in team games. At that's the point we want to start making, you know, considering upbuildings, such as a stable siege workshop. Not stable, university siege workshop. It's not always going to be the case for the buildings you use. And obviously then we want to hammer on the gold. This is kind of simple booming. I have a lot of guides on booming, but I'm just going to keep going over them as much as possible because collectively you'll get a good idea. We don't have many double layer farms, just a few here and there, so handcar is not that essential. It's much bigger when you have double layer farms. And you could even get things like loom, you could get time watch. It's nice to have extra lumber camps if you can. You'd also build your barracks now if you wanted to, just to give you a head start in building ranges as soon as you click up. You could even sell a bit of food, sell a bit of wood, and you could click up much quicker. For example, here we're going to sell a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Just a bit of that. Sometimes you hit time watch. And we're already up. We have good economy. We can get gold mining upgrade as soon as we can afford it. We don't need that much on food. You can actually get away with about 36 on farms on the way up, and then 30 farms when you are up. That can get you enough food for all your upgrades. Archers, especially heavy cav archers, have a lot of food expensive upgrades. But they're one-time costs, you know, you're not paying for a lot of wood. On the way up, you're going to get a lot of food, so don't worry about it. This one's creating the Imperial Age tech, so we need to make sure that we have another TC sending wood over here. You need a huge amount of wood to make cavalry archers. But also as Tatars, usually from pocket you wouldn't be doing this, making siege. And from flank, you would, you know, preferably be making siege and not doing a 4TC. But if you wanted to make siege now, a good wood economy is still going to help. Don't forget to also add a stable, because there are some upgrades that fetch your cavalry archers. Something I've also been neglecting to mention is that we do need to get some stable upgrades for our cavalry archers, as well as ballistics. Tatars get free thumb ring and also free Parthian tactics, which is quite a lot of cost saved as well, so wood is even less important. Make sure you delete your old lumber camps as you're done with them. Otherwise you'll have villagers going to them and it could be a problem. You need to make sure we just go ham on the wood though. As I keep saying. Decent amount of gold, decent amount of everything, and we're still going to be able to build a castle. We can even buy one if we really wanted to tech quicker. So don't worry about that. We're going to get just under 27-minute Imperial Age. And then we could get, should have Bracer if I didn't forget the upgrades. And Chemistry. Chemistry is actually the more important one to get right away because it just takes a very, very long time to research. Make sure you keep making villagers. And with Tatars just going CA, 130 could be quite good. You could go for 140 and honestly you will have a lot of economy to make a lot of army early. You have a slight... There's this kind of a tipping point where you have too many villagers, it costs you a lot and you're going to have max army, you know, 200 pop cap, before those villagers really earn their keep. But, you know, it's not that noticeable of a problem. I feel like 130 is usually a good number to get to. But yeah, the amount of cavalry archers you start massing with this build is incredible. And obviously Tatar Cav Arch, they're very, very strong. Build our castle. If we're pocket, minute 2840, maybe the opponent pocket is only just now hitting Imperial Age after some kind of, you know, 3TC into 4TC boom with the slower civ. So we need to pay very close attention to how strong Tatars are these days. Their units are a bit linear, but they do have Heavy Cav Arch plus Hussar, which is a really strong combination. They have Siege Ram, HCA Siege Ram is really strong. And also they have really good unique units for the late game. Keshik is a very odd one. If you boom into Keshik, you tend not to have a good time, as I tend to find. Because they're just kind of not very pop efficient weak. But they are very, very cheap for how good they are. They're almost like, they're like better knights for 30 gold, really. Anyway, I've just done enough explaining. I hope you understood the build and I hope I went through it enough that you have a good idea of how to boom properly with hopefully most civs. And yeah, hope this pays off for you. So, thanks for watching this video and goodbye.